Welcome to Buckets. This is your Friday Best Bets edition of Buckets, sponsored by our host, FanDuel at the Action Network. I am here. I'm Brandon Anderson here with J Money is Money and Joe Delera. You can find those guys at, those names, at J Money is Money and at Joe Delera on Twitter and on the award-winning Action Network app. Make sure you get the app. Follow all of our picks, get those notifications on, get the real time, get that CLV. Get those picks in when we get them into the app. Get those best value for your lines. Friday night, we've got two games on the slate. Phoenix and Denver, game 3. The Nuggets up 2-0. Phoenix coming home. We'll talk about that. And then we got to talk about Joel Embiid, guys. The MVP is back. Joel Embiid played. We will talk about what we thought about that. Let's go around the horn and do our best bets at the top, and then we'll get into it. So, J Money, what are you feeling for Friday's slate?
Give me Suns in the first half, best bet.
All right. I like it. That is one of my plays as well. Joe, how about you? What do you like for Friday?
I'm looking at Jokic over 13 and a half rebounds. Just been a wagon against this Suns team on the season and in the past couple games in the playoffs.
Yeah, the man is getting a lot of rebounds. I like that. I'm going to play a couple of props as well. Suns first half is my main play on that game, but I'm going back to one we did last time. Give me the Devin Booker over points and assists. We've been doing that one a lot. Lots of Booker assists. We'll get into that. Line is up to 38.5, but for good reason. I still like it. And then I got a couple of really, really niche props here. A couple of 3-pointers. I'm going to fill in for Gilles Gallant today. He's our 3-points guy, but I'm going to take Damian Lee over 0.5 threes, guys. Give me a Damian Lee 3. And then in the other game, give me Grant Williams over 1.5 threes. So let's start out with Suns and Nuggets. That's the game that we have our most picks on. So Suns Nuggets, Friday night. That is the late game, of course. Nuggets are anywhere from, they're 3.5 right now at FanDuel up to 4.5 elsewhere. Total at 224.5. Jay, you and I are both on first half in this game. Why do you like the first half play here for Phoenix?
Yeah, I love the Suns in this spot. Obviously down 0-2, absolute desperation spot, right? Obviously be looking at getting swept if they don't win this game. I fully expect them to win this game by margin as well. And it's just like I say, down 0-2, this is the full desperation spot. You get complacency versus must win. Not necessarily sure the Denver Nuggets have that killer instinct in them to go into Phoenix and get this win even straight up in this one, man. So I'll be honest, I do think this will be a blowout spot. I think the Suns get back some confidence for them. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they won game 3 and game 4 at the house. I know that they're without Chris Paul. That's kind of why I want to stay away from the first quarter. Going to take a little time to get used to that. But I think Devin Booker can definitely run the point guard. They got campaign back, got his feet wet a little bit in that way. And they have to play a little bit of these players off the bench as well. Got to see a little bit more TJ Warren and Terrence Ross in there as well. But I think the Money Williams and the guys will have a great game plan. I think they'll play top tier defense. KD and Devin Booker will be ready for this game. I'll take the Suns in the first half.
Yeah, Suns won the first half last game 42-40. It was all going well till that fourth quarter where they kind of fell apart. Guys, it's weird. These games, the big gap in the week is really throwing off my momentum on these games. I feel like I haven't watched Denver and Phoenix play for like a week right now. We got Miami and New York coming up on Saturday. So I'm wondering if I'm feeling that just as an analyst and a fan. I'm wondering how that kind of mojo wears off. Maybe some of that Denver momentum from the early wins has worn down a little bit too. We've seen Denver come out flat a little bit at times. That's just kind of part of what they do. If they're not really into it, or if they feel like maybe they got this wrapped up, a little bit of that Warriors overconfidence thing. So I do think this is a spot play. That's why I like the first half as well. The home team coming home, game 3 down 0-2 is one of the steadier, more reliable trends from Bet Labs. That team just in the first half, 67, 34, and 2 against the spread. It's a 66% hit rate. And guys, we don't just blindly bet trends too often, but if it's a 2 out of 3 hit rate, that is a pretty steady one to go to. And Jay, I know that's your spot is kind of watching for the motivations angle. So that's why I'm on that one. Joe, you got the prop play on Jokic here. What do you like on him?
Look, in all 4 games against the Phoenix Suns this season, he's had 15 plus rebounds. The rebound chances are very much there. He's averaging 28 rebound chances per game during the conference semifinals. And it's just a bad matchup for Phoenix, honestly. Like, they don't have the body to throw at him. Ayton's not big enough. And Jokic, even though Ayton's had some good games against Jokic, Joker just kind of gets it done. He's getting those rebound chances. He's the guy that's going to go grab those for Denver and kickstart the offense a lot of times with some outlet passes even. So I like Jokic in this spot. I think that he goes over this line again, and we know that he's playing max minutes here. So I do think that it's a good opportunity for him, and he should continue to do this. He's converting them at a very high clip, and it's just one of those things where the Suns are limited in a lot of what they can do right now. Like, their roster is very thin, and you really are going to need Ayton out there now, probably a little bit more for offense with the fact that Chris Paul's hurt. So they might have him say, look, you might have to take it even easier on the glass. Not that he's like the biggest rebounder anyway, but you can't get into foul trouble because it's going to be a major problem if you're getting, over the back fouls or anything like that. So I think that those chances are going to go the Nuggets' way, and I like them to go over the 13.5.
So 2 follow-ups for you on that 13.5. Are you looking to play the escalator? Are you looking to go for the big rebound number? And is there any concern about what if this game gets away a little bit? We've got every day or every 2 days here on out. Is there any concern about maybe a blowout limiting some Jokic possessions or rebound chances?
Maybe I guess, but at the same time, I bet Denver plus 5.5 at the open because I was like, that line's just wrong. So I think that Phoenix should win this game, right? But at the same time, from what we've seen on court, I'm not 100% convinced that we're going to get that. I think it could still be a close game, especially like Jay said, there might be some opportunity where, maybe Phoenix can pull it out later, or they kind of figure something out. But I think that they might start a little bit slow. And honestly, campaign isn't inspiring a lot of confidence in me for Phoenix. So I do think that I understand what you're saying, but I haven't seen enough to think that this is going to be a blowout. And if it is, maybe it'll come later in the game as Phoenix kind of gets their rotations down a little bit more.
So I'm going to pivot to the campaign thing because that kind of plays into my pick here. Guys, this is a little bit blasphemy, and I hear exactly how ridiculous this sounds. With the way that Chris Paul is playing at this stage of his career, and more importantly, the way that Phoenix is using Chris Paul largely as hey, stand in the corner and spot up, buddy. I'm not totally convinced that switching those minutes over to campaign is going to be as disastrous as it feels like it should be. I know campaign was really rough last game, and Chris Paul is the point god and Hall of Famer and all of the above. This is not CP slander, but the way they're using him and what he can do at this age of his career. So Payne played 14 straight games, November, December, when CP was out. We don't have a lot to go on here because we don't really have what if campaign starts while Durant is on the team. We're all a small sample here. But in that 14-game stretch when Payne was healthy and started, he put up 15 points, 3 rebounds, 7.3 assists a game. That's interesting because CP has been at 7.4 for the playoffs. So basically just stepping right in there. But interesting, though, 2.3 3-pointers per game for campaign on 5.8 shots. So he's getting 6 threes up. Guys, that's like half a game for Phoenix Suns. 6 threes is breaking records for the way the Suns play. So if he can shoot and get some shots up and just kind of play off the ball a little bit, I'm not sure that that's going to be as devastating a drop-off as what it should be with CP. That said, I don't trust the campaign minutes. I don't trust he's not getting in foul trouble. We saw that last game. So rather than play the Payne angle on Chris Paul, that's why I'm just going back to low with Devin Booker. So over 38.5 points plus assists. Look, he could just hit that on scoring. We know that at this point. He has gone 37 points a game the last 6 games of the playoffs, but he's also at 7.2 assists in those games. You've heard us make the case on here with the assists over and over. We're playing that with Durant out. But also when Chris Paul is out, Booker's assists always have gone up. We had the last time when Chris Paul missed playoff games a few years ago, Devin Booker, what did he do? He had a 40-point triple-double in one of those 2 games without him. So that was a big breakout for him. That assist line went up to 7.5 now. RIP to our 5.5s that we've been smashing for all this time. But I don't mind the over 38.5. He's had, in the last 6 games, gone over that 4 times. The other misses was a 37 and a 35. And remember, the 35 was that game 1 when they sat out the last 5 minutes. So he would have probably just gone over that one too. So I like the Booker over 38.5. Joe, you've been on the Booker assist train with me. Are you leaning that direction as well here?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they move the assist just like a touch high. It's just at a point where he's just not really getting that. But I think you're right in terms of fact, like they have to win this game. So, even if they're down, I think that you're going to see Booker continuing to play, just as long as it's within some sort of reach. They have to try to win this game on any type of run. And I like that spot. He's their best scorer, him and KD. So he should really run the offense, especially like you said, if Campaign maybe starts getting exposed in one way, shape, or form. It's like, look, Book, here's you do what you got to do.
Yeah, and Booker, we talked on the last show going into game 2. I warned about the Booker assist play because he had 8 assists game 1 on 8 potential assists. So game 2, he dropped to 6 assists. However, potentials went up to 11. So we basically went to about a 50% conversion rate where we expect. And don't forget, Chris Paul played a lot of that game. He had 9 potential assists. So if you basically take those 9 and redistribute them, figure Book gets half of them. Now he's up to like 15 potential assists. You're feeling pretty good. That 7.5 number, I think, is probably just about the right line. There's not a lot of value in it for me, but adding it into the points and assists, I like that one. Damian Lee, our man, played 26 minutes last game. He scored 0. He went 0 for 5 from the field, but the 0 for 5, the 5 is the number I like here, and the 26. Damian Lee got back in the rotation. Clearly, a thing the Phoenix Suns did in game 2 was, hey, what if we try to solve this math problem a little bit? Let's shoot some threes. How about we shoot a few threes? We saw Durant do that. I don't think it really went well. 2 for 12. Obviously, he can shoot the threes, but it felt out of rhythm for him. Felt like a little bit forced. Damian Lee, he's out there to shoot. So he only got 0 for 5 in the game, but 3 of those were 3-pointers. You're going to make one of those most games. He played this season 24 games. He had at least 24 minutes. In those games, he averaged 4.7 3-point attempts, made more than 2 per game, and shot 45% on those. So you might have to really look around to find a Damian Lee prop. They're not necessarily up yet. They might come up just before the game. But in those 24 games, when he hit the 24 minutes, like he did in game 2, he had 2 or more threes in 18 out of those games. So 75% of the time. I don't know, Joe, if there's such a thing as a Damian Lee escalator, but I think I'm here. I think I'm ready for the Damian Lee 1, 2, 3 escalator. What do you think?
Yeah, dude, I think it's actually a good angle, especially I think it ties in with Booker too, right? Because I think a lot of the issues that the Suns had, even schematically, has to do with spacing. So with Chris Paul, he's not really a 3-point shooter. You remove him off the floor, maybe that opens it up a little bit more for Book on some driving kicks. It opens up the paint and it lets him, spread the floor with these other shooters around him. So like ride the hot hand. I mean, we only need one, so they're going to give him his opportunities. It's not like they have anybody else to play. So I do like the spot. Maybe I guarantee you 2+ is going to be like plus 400 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know about ride the hot hand. I feel like we're really pushing the hot hand here, unless we're just counting hot hand minutes. Getting on the court is hot hand for Damian Lee. Jay, you got anything else on this game before we get over to Boston, Philly?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Damian Lee look as long as he gets those many minutes. Role players play a lot better at the house. So I'm expecting a supporting cast for the Suns to play a lot better in this game.
Yeah, I think so. They're going to need it. You got to have the role players show up at home, and that's the angle that we see come through. We saw Bruce Brown really good those first couple of games for Denver. I don't think that he'll necessarily drop off a lot, but Denver really hit everything in all cylinders. We'll see how this looks in game 3. Phoenix, I mean, they gave everything for this. This is the franchise right now. You can't go down 0-3 when you traded literally everything for Kevin Durant. So you got to expect that they show up here. Boston, Philly, game 3. Celtics are road favorites, 1.5-point favorites on the road in Philly. Total is at 214, right about in line where it's been the last couple of games. Guys, Joel Embiid is back. He played and they lost. Oh man, did they lose? They lost by a lot. So just to remind you how this went, game 1, Joel Embiid, the MVP of the league, now announced and confirmed, didn't play. James Harden, 45 points, and the Sixers win game 2. Joel Embiid, the MVP, heroic return, and they get blown out. So, Jay, what did you make of Joel Embiid? What's the takeaway on how did he play? What are you taking away from what you saw from him for the series?
Yeah, first game back. Well, first off, congratulations to Joel Embiid getting the MVP as well. I was on that pretty heavily, but regards to that, yeah, first game back after 13 straight days. We didn't expect him to look well. Sometimes you want to zig and zag, right? I was on Philly in the first game with no Embiid. We knew that the Celtics were going to be complacent in that one, thinking that things were easy. They lost it outright. Then Embiid comes back. Now the Celtics ready to play their best game. They wanted to send a message, went out there and smacked them up by almost 40 points. So that was fully expected for me. Game 3, I'm kind of going to wait this one out. I will probably play the loser of this one in game 4. I could see the Celtics coming out here getting a win again, but something tells me that the Sixers are going to be pretty pissed off after getting absolutely blown out. I still probably wouldn't expect Embiid to be 100%. We know he's not 100%. It's kind of forcing it. Obviously, it's the playoffs now. You have to play it even if you're at 70, 80%. So I still don't expect him to look his full self in this one, but we know role players play a lot better at the house. So if I had a look in this one, it would probably be Sixers early. I do think if the Celtics take it, it'll be later in the game. But first quarter, first half, I could only look towards the team coming off getting absolutely blown out first game at the house in this round 2 series. I expect the Sixers role players mainly to show up here in the first quarter, first half.
Yeah, I like what you said too about possibly getting to the 2-2 tie. Some books you can bet that. I see a minus 115 on a 2-2 tie for the series. That feels like where we're headed, right? It feels like we're going to do a best of 3. And you have to feel decent about Boston's chances there because you got 2 out of the 3 home games at that point. But it feels like we're in for a war, right? It feels like we're settling in long term. The over 5.5 games for the series, I think, is juiced to like minus 350 now or something. So books are just like, nope, no, thank you. We don't need your money. Go ahead and bet someone to win this thing in 5. We don't think it's happening. So, Joe, what about you? What did you take away from Embiid from what you saw? How about also James Harden and obviously his very different games, game 1 and 2? What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of one of those things where Philly almost didn't know what to do. It seemed like the offense was like lost, right? So Embiid was playing, he played 25 minutes. His passes received was actually cut in like half. So it was almost used as like a decoy in a way. But like when he did get the ball, he wanted to shoot. So he was like relatively effective scoring the basketball, and he had a ton of blocks. But Philly seemed to be in this weird situation where they didn't know how to run the offense, right? But what they had in game 1, I thought was interesting because Harden was good. Harden was like really good. And Harden had some comments where he was like, I had to step up. Like I needed to take on that role. Maybe that's actually the role that they need to beat this Boston team. And it's not running through Joel Embiid just in this particular matchup. Like you need Harden to take 10 threes a game at a minimum because you need to match up with the math that Boston's going to provide. The thing that I think is really interesting is that Tatum played bad and they still got their doors blown off. So I'm curious to see. I think this is a spot where Philly, a lot of their role players are 3-point shooters. And kind of like how Jay said, you said, the role players played better at home. So I might be looking at some, maybe like a little bit of Georges Niang, like some stuff like that, where I'm saying like, all right, well, if Philly's going to win or if Philly's going to keep this close, he's a guy that's got to make some threes and he's a little bit more comfortable at home. So that's kind of the angle that I think I'd be looking to approach here. But I think you're both 100% right. Embiid does not look 100% like at all. And it's honestly like he looks closer to 60% or so than 100. So I think he's just kind of getting out there because he really has to, and Philly does need him. But I think that they need to run the offense a little bit more through Harden.
Yeah, look, we obviously don't have the information that the teams do, but I was really surprised that he played this game. I felt like it was a mistake to try to rush him back out there. And maybe the upside is you get to shake off the rust a little bit, get some conditioning in, and he's better for game 3. I'm going to give them credit here and hope that that's what they're hoping for here. Like this was always going to be a good spot for Boston in game 2. We've done the game 2 down 0-1 thing for a lot of these teams. So I don't know. Look, I kind of painted the picture at the top on MVP out and they win, MVP in and they lose. That's not really what happened this game. Like, that's not really totally fair. It's more like Boston just hit all their threes. And we know when Boston makes all their threes, 39%, they made 20 in this game. when they do that, they're going to beat you. We have the number from during the year. There's something like 43-2 now when they hit 40% of their threes, and they're right there. So that was just a third quarter barrage. They hit all the threes, and that's the NBA in 2023. That'll happen sometimes. I do think the defense with Joel Embiid at the rim, clearly much better. He had 5 blocks in the first half. And I mean, look, game 1 was a layup line. Paul Reed, our man, is not protecting the rim. He's getting the rebounds, but he was letting them just get to the rim. Their rim rate dropped by about half, Boston's, in attacking here. So that mattered. But then I wonder if that also played out in Embiid tiring out a little bit and leaving some of those 3-point shots open, not quite getting out to cover. And was that worth it? I don't know. I am not probably going to play a side on this game for game 3. I don't feel super confident in this series right now. I am going to play a role player. I'll play a Boston one. Grant Williams over 1.5 threes. This was a spot that I had targeted coming into the series, but then held off in game 1 because it's a Joel Embiid correlated spot. I think Grant Williams is really good against Joel Embiid. He's super strong. Like, that dude is a brick house and can just hang in the post, hang with Embiid. And when he's out there, we know what they do. They're going to plant him in the corner, let him shoot some threes, and even do a little bit of playmaking too. So here's what I noticed in the 4 games against Philadelphia during the season. And we know Grant Williams' minutes have been all over the map this year. Those 4 games, he played 30 minutes a game. He had a double-double in 3 of the 4, and he had 2.5 threes per game, had at least 2 makes in 3 out of those 4. So what do we see? Game 1, Grant Williams plays 4 minutes, invisible, not in the rotation. Game 2, Embiid's back in the lineup. Grant Williams plays 29 minutes. He's plus 22. He goes 4 of 8 on threes. Now, I don't want to go too crazy here. Half of those threes came in the fourth quarter, effectively garbage time. So I'm probably not going to take the escalator, but Grant Williams to just be out there and get some threes up, I think is a good spot here. Joe, what do you think about the Grant Williams angle?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, if you look at his last couple games, really, pretty much every game he's played against the Sixers with Joel Embiid playing, he's made at least 1 3. So you're like already halfway there, right? I do think that your point there is good about the fact that he's so strong. He's really able to contest and, put a body on Embiid. And if Embiid's knee is not great, he's not moving Grant Williams. So I do like the angle, and I think that it's a good spot, especially because if that knee is still bothering him, which it looks like it is, it's going to be much, much more difficult for him to get out to the corner, cover him, like cover Grant Williams shooting those threes from the 3-point line. So I think those are going to be a little bit more open shots that maybe they would have been if Embiid is at full health.
Yeah, I agree. Real quick before we get out of here, I just want to touch briefly on futures. I feel like, look, I'm the futures guy. And if you have a read on Celtics Sixers, it doesn't sound like the 3 of us really have a strong angle on it. But if you feel like you do, I think this is a great spot for you to get some money. And especially, I kind of think there might be some value on Philadelphia here. Maybe I am overreacting to Embiid being back. Maybe Embiid is just not good and going to get injured again. I think that certainly re-injury is in play. But I think the Sixers are being a little underrated. I was coming around before the series to, guys, I think Philadelphia has a decent price here. If they were healthy, I just didn't think they were. So I couldn't really price it in. I didn't think Embiid would be playing still even in game 3 necessarily. But I see some value on Philadelphia game to game. And that has to mean then, look, it's a 5-game series that the Sixers have home court advantage in right now. They get 3 of the 5 games at home court. So I think if you like them, though, my point is this: don't play them to win the series. You got to think bigger, because if they're good enough to be the Celtics, then sorry, Joe, they got to be the favorite against your Knicks or your Heat. We got to do it. So I think you got to play, if you like Philly, play them to come out of the East. I see Joel Embiid as 5-1 to win East MVP. James Harden is 25-1. You can just put those together and you're getting a plus 383 implied that you get either one of those stars to be the Eastern MVP, which is basically a ticket on Philly to come out of the East. And I know, Tyrese Maxey, you want to throw him in there too? He's 85-1. That's fine. Put a couple bucks on that. Get your whole position covered. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm there yet because we just don't know about Philly. But if you wait another game and they look really good, you miss your chance. So, Jay, do you want to talk me into or out of a futures position here before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think you're looking in the right places, right? If whoever wins this series is likely gonna win the East. So I like how you're attacking it because you're finding even more value with going with the guys that could potentially win the MVP as well. I definitely think it would be out of the three. I mean, let's be honest, they would give it to Harden or Embiid, even if Maxey kind of goes bonkers and nail it, man. So I think you're looking in the right spot, basically finding the best possible value. But I definitely agree, whoever wins this series is definitely winning the Eastern Conference. So I like the looks there.
Joe, you got anything on futures?
No, I do think that that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think Boston should win this series, right? Like just based on like what we're seeing out of Philly, but we know that Boston kind of does this where they play down their competition like enough games where the number is bad. I think the number is bad on Boston. You know, like they're basically saying that they're the favorite and they're a heavier favorite than, you know, what we're seeing on paper and like what the actual situation is. So I do think that there is some more value on Philly just based on the fact that Embiid is probably going to be the most dominant if he's healthy, and you know maybe that knee kind of starts to recover like as he plays a little bit more on it. Which sounds funny, but I guess with sprains that can kind of happen. You know, he's generally going to be the most dominant player left in the Eastern Conference. So I think that makes a lot of sense to target that angle.
All right, we got some good games coming Friday night. Game 3 action. We're getting back in the regular flow. We'll be back for Friday for the weekend games and back in our usual schedule. That's it for today's Buckets. Please remember to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts if you could. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love about the show. We got some Action Network merch coming your way. Get that green dot. Wear it proudly. Get a pro subscription to get the Action Network app. All that extra info, all the props, angles, a lot of good stuff on there. So give us some good reviews. You can find Jay at JMoneyIsMoney, at Joe Delera. For Joe, I'm at Wheaton Brando. We'll see you next time. Let's get buckets.